All right. Hello, everybody. All right, so welcome to the Mikestand, everybody. Today is Friday. That means it's our weekly look back through comics history. Um, and before we talk about what's going to be going down on tonight's show, let me hand it over to my co-host for the evening, the Metal from the Vomitorium. Metal, if you'd if you'd like, I think you know the shtick. You want to give your own little intro, maybe tell everybody a little bit about who you are, if they don't, just in case they don't know. Promote anything you're doing. Talk about your channel. I think you get the shtick, right?
I don't know, maybe. Yeah, I'm the middle. I'm a dude. I do things. That's about it. I actually make webcomics occasionally. It's been a while since I've uploaded a page, but I've been getting back to it. And a cool thing that's happening in webcomics right now is the creators of the prolific site Top Webcomics has started a hosting site called Fables that will be giving unrestricted ad revenue to the people on it. And I was invited to be one of their launch creators, and I have a referral code and everything. So if people actually sign up through that referral code, it benefits me. So they should
And
do
this
that,
is the
even if they
link.
don't plan
And
on
this
using
is
the
the
site.
link you're sharing for that referral code.
Yes, yes, yes. So that's what I want people to focus on today.
All right. All right. So if
Because
you
I
guys are
want that sweet ad revenue. That's what I want.
all right. All right. Is there anything else you'd like to promote or talk about? Anything interesting coming up on the Vomitorium or anything like that?
Not that I know of, but then again, I play every single episode by ear, so I never know what interesting thing is coming up unless somebody specifically asked us to research a topic to talk about.
Yeah.
I mean,
Or
I guess Goodnight
unless
Spoon wanted us to talk
unless of
about
course
the
a new
fair.
channel. Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
I
Go
was
ahead.
saying Goodnight Spoon asked us to watch the fair, which we did. So I guess on Monday we'll be talking about that.
Hmm. Yeah. Or unless of course a new town like myself, you know, maybe gives you an idea or two, right? like
Maybe I don't know. Like I said, almost every single episode, I kind of find what we're going to talk about maybe an hour or two before we go on.
yeah. Oh, I know that feeling because now for me it's not an hour or two before. It's more like 5 to 6. Like so here in California, I start my show at 6. So I'll usually be setting up my show, right around 1 o'clock or so. That's usually when I'll try to get all caught up on my subscriptions and get all set up. So, all right. So anything more you'd like to add?
Um,
Promo
no, no,
wise?
no. Just go to that site, and if you've never read my stuff, feel free to read it through that site. Give me some hearts, inflate my metrics because I don't care about being shameless.
You have a strong sense of humility, right? All right. So, all right. Well, with all that being done and said, let's talk a little bit about what's going to be. Well, also, let me just a friendly reminder to everybody: if you haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can, bring in some more friendly people to engage with the content. Also, if you're not subscribed yet, feel free to subscribe if you like what we're doing. That way, you can get the notifications that much quicker to when I'm on. Of course, I'm on usually 6 nights a week, so doing all sorts of things. Um, and of course, as always, during the show, if anything we talk about grabs your attention, feel free to comment and/or ask questions, and we'll try to answer the questions to the best of our ability. So, with that being all said, let me talk we're now kind of like we're already 5 minutes into the show here, so why don't I go ahead and talk about what's on tap for tonight? So, as I said, it's our weekly look back through comics history. This week, we're looking at books that went on sale from what was known at the time as Better Books publications, what many fans would know as either Nador or Standard Comics. This week, we'll be looking at Thrilling Comics Volume 1, Issue 4, and Exciting Comics Volume 1, Issue 2. The features will include Thesson, Son of the Gods, um, the Sphinx, the standard version of the Sphinx, that is. Um, Let me see. Standard version of the Mask, because there have been a number of comic characters with that name. Um, Let me see. Standard version of the Ghost, and the Woman in Red. So, so we have 5 features we're gonna go over tonight over 2 books. Hey, Rick, how you doing tonight, man? So, so with that, why don't we go ahead then? Let me pull the comics up, and we're starting from Exciting Volume 1, Issue 2. So let me pull that up, and let's get going on it then. Hey, Sungwoo, hey, Seyun. Hope you guys will enjoy the show here, and as always, again, one last friendly reminder before we get into the content here. If you guys haven't already, if you guys can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything we talk about grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. We'll try to answer questions to the best of our ability. So, with all that being said, what do you think of the cover right there, Metal? Exciting comics, 10 thrilling action adventures in this issue.
It's a cover.
10 cents. Number 2. All right, so let me.
I wish I only had to drop a dime on a comic today.
Yeah, could you imagine how many comics you get for? I mean, a dime. That means you get like 10 comics for like $1. Space Rivers. Here we go. Here's the first story we're going to look at. Thesson of the Gods. So let's see. All right, so Dr. Thesson and Professor Craig, American archaeologist, are nearing the Isle of Crete. There to search for the ancient labyrinth of King Minos. Soon our great adventure starts. We may even find the ring of Poseidon. Thesson is skeptical. Professor, we're scientists, not mystics. I don't believe the ring ever existed. Let me tell you something about Theseus, John. Maybe you'll change your mind. Ages ago, the giant Periphetes terrorized Greece. Theseus, son of King Aegeus, hid himself near the giant's lair. Leaping down on Periphetes, Theseus cut his throat. How am I doing on the Greek pronunciations as far there?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm not gonna correct you on your pronunciation of your names because you're mostly saying them the way modern people would say it, even in modern Greece. But modern Greek is about as different from like Athenian or Attic Greek as like French is from Latin, right? So they don't even say things the same way that they did back in the Hellenistic age. But you did say Minos correctly. Like that is how they would have said it back then. Most people say Minos now. But they would have said Minos. They would have said like Theseus, right? Or
Theseus.
yeah, anything like that. Aegeus would have been his father, but that you are correct to the contemporary pronunciation of the names.
Okay. Well, it's nice to know. You know me. I always try to be as correct as possible. So.
Yeah, almost nobody says it the way they would have said it back then, like at all. It would have been closer to how Latin words are pronounced, but uh, Hellenistic language of Greek in the different like Attic, Athenian pronunciation was a monster to deal with because they had phonetic length and pitch was
Hmm.
part of their language that has kind of been dropped.
Hmm. All right. So, reaching the city of Corinth, Theseus found the people horrified. What troubles you, citizens? The wild man Sinis, whom we call the Pine Bender, he is killing us off. Sinis, whose terrible strength um, enabled him to bend pine trees, crushing his victims between them. Wow, that's quite strong, isn't it?
Yeah, that's pretty strong.
Theseus outwitted the wild man and tied him to his own tree. While I live, we'll have no tyrants in the world. As Sinis arched his back to uproot the tree, Theseus ran him through. May Sharon, or
Karen. It's
may
pronounced
Karen,
Karen.
Charon, take you. I didn't know if
Karen
they
is
have the
the
soft ch sound or the hard ch sound in that particular.
yeah, yeah. Karen is the ferryman of the River Styx.
Yeah, I do kind of know that. I just never wasn't sure if it was like the soft ch sound or the hard ch sound. You know, Theseus found his father's court at Athens in mourning. By by the gods, father, is there nothing but grief in your kingdom of Attica? King Minos, overlord of Crete, has ordered us to send him 7 youths and 7 maidens as sacrifice to the Minotaur. They are choosing lots to see who shall die. Oh, that's gotta be something, right?
Yeah. Funny thing about it, the word Minotaur literally just means Minos' beast.
Hmm. You see now that's why it's good to have a
Yeah.
co-host. Sometimes a co-host can bring light to. Hmm.
Yeah, no, it's very, very odd story about how it came to be. His wife was just fascinated with this godly bull that was given to him as a gift, and
Mhm.
she forced Daedalus to create a mechanical heifer for her to go inside, so the bull would, do marital things with her. And 9 months later, she gave birth to a half man, half bull thing, and Minos was like, "Well, I'm going to keep it as a beast down in my dungeon."
Hmm. Well, Minotaur. Okay, Minos Taurus. Taurus, I believe, is another word for bull, isn't it?
It is, but the oldest word it means is beast. It's just been applied to grazing beasts like bulls. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay. All right. So continuing on then with the Theseus demanded to be one of the sacrificed youths. In Crete, he stood before King Minos. Look, Ariadne, Aegeus has sent his own son. Very well, you shall be the first to die. Hmm. Return my sword, and it will be your Minotaur that perishes. As Theseus entered the labyrinth, Ariadne lowered a sword. Tie one end of the thread to your starting place. It will guide you back. The sword alone is enough. The sword is enough, fair one. Let's see. Unraveling the thread as he went, Theseus met the Minotaur. By the ring of Poseidon, fight, monster! The Minotaur's charge produced Theseus' sword from his grasp, or knocked Theseus' sword from his grasp.
That's it's an interesting depiction of the Minotaur. Uh,
How
it,
so?
well, it looks more like a centaur than a minotaur. Typically, the Minotaur, even in the earliest depictions, he still mostly had the body of a man and like the head or upper body of a bull.
Whereas the centaur was the other way around. It was the the top half was was the man, and the bottom half was the horse, right?
Yeah,
When you're comparing. Hmm. Well,
like
again,
they mix their monsters up around here.
well, what's kind of funny too, and of course, uh, I think RJ and I were probably talking about this a couple weeks ago. Um, sometimes it's kind of interesting to see just see how much some of these writers knew about some of the other fields that they were writing about. Because a couple weeks ago, of course, we are doing prize comics, and we are doing like Power Nelson from Prize Comics, right? And one of the things I was talking about with that was the author's thought of what 42, because of course that story was written in 1940, and yet they were depicting what he at least what he believed the world was likely to be like 42 years in the future, or 1982. And when we saw that, it's like, okay, he was already thinking like the Jetsons kind of thing. We'd already be like what the Jetsons were, if you've seen the Jetsons cartoon or what have you. He was already thinking we'd be like that in 1982. So it just
Yeah.
does kind of marvel, though, at what some of these authors thought of certain situations that were just beyond the realm of the norm, as it were, in terms of some of the.
Yeah, but like I don't know. There's certain things that I find excusable because like nobody knows them except for like nerds. So there's like Heracles, for example, very famous hero. Most people only know him by his Roman name Hercules,
Hercules.
right? But
Mhm.
Heracles, uh, and even Hercules, actual name is Alkaios or Alcades, depending on which version of it. And nobody knows that, right? That's fine. Nobody knows that. The Minotaur, though, is one of the most famous monsters, even going back to before comics were even printed. So
Mhm.
that one's it's a little odd.
Yeah, but also, but even with that, though, you can kind of excuse maybe some level of ignorance here, because you know first, I'm sure a lot of people would confuse the Minotaur and the Centaur, because they are very similar. Obviously, now most people today probably know the difference between a Centaur and Minotaur, but remember, in 1940, they didn't have the same level of resource materials that we do today, right? Like today, you
I
can
don't
just
know if we were talking about maybe even most other things, but you remember for a lot of early American history, Greek literature and mythology was one of like the required things that they taught kids in grade school.
hmm, yeah, good point. Hmm,
And it's because Greek philosophy, Greek mythology, and its history was seen as like a very posh, very noble thing to know because of how much influence it had onto our constitution.
hmm, yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure everybody remembers the term Roman Senate, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Well, even the Romans, they were obsessed with the Greeks. Their whole empire, they were pretending they were the next phase of Greece.
hmm, yeah. So let's see. Let me just check to see what's maybe going on in the chat, and then we'll get back. Okay. Well, nobody's saying much of anything right now, but anyways, let me just do this real quick, and then we'll get into the.
Actually, that even kind of lingered. I remember when I was a kid in elementary school, we even had a course over the Greek gods.
Well, I think even at college level, they still have classes on like Greek culture and Greek literature and all that too. Of course, Greek is yeah is and in some colleges. Well, I mean Greek culture even in the fraternities and sororities, right? It's
Yes, it
still
still lingers there.
yeah.
And a huge impact on early America, which is why, like, if it was almost anything else, but I look at the Minotaur, which is just one of the most prolific monsters in history. And it's like, God,
Mhm.
how do you mess that one up?
Hmm. Yeah.
That'd be like messing up the story of David and Goliath.
Yeah. Good point. Anyways, get ready to move on to the next portion here. Right. Throwing his arms around the Minotaur's neck, Theseus strangled it. Look at that. He's got what looks kind of like maybe a sleeper hold or a carotid chokehold right there.
Yeah, it's like a rear naked choke.
Yeah. Um, this avenges 100 you've killed. Theseus ended the conflict by cutting off the Minotaur's head. Oh, and look at what they did with comics back then, right?
Yeah.
That probably couldn't. I don't know if you would let that go. Maybe with indie comics that would be fine, but mainstream comics probably couldn't get away with that since they do more for the kids. Having a guy carry
Maybe
around
at
the
the very
severed
least,
head of an enemy like that,
yeah, at the very least, there'd be no blood.
yeah, yeah. So, but then again, we have to also remember around this time, kids were probably a lot more mature back in 1940 than they are today because they had to be because of the times and circumstances they were living in.
Well, it's one of the things I appreciate about being indie. The very first chapter of Eckstein Miss Chaos, I rip off the head of a succubus. I don't have to worry about some like publisher or authority telling me like you can't do that.
Yeah. Hmm. Dr. Thesson scoffs at the story. Just an interesting myth, Professor. We'll see, John. Look, we're ready to dock. That afternoon, they set out on foot for Knossos.
Um, Kenosis.
Knossos. Yeah. Um, I hope we find our supplies ready at the camp. Hmm. That oak forest ahead of us dates back to antiquity. The ancient forest has an air of mystery. I can imagine a few Greek gods lurking here. Wait, something's crashing through the underbrush. A huge boar charges the two scientists. Hmm. Never mind me. Save yourself. I'll handle him. Besson meets the beast with his hunting knife. My God, he'll be slashed to death by those tusks. Flexing his knees, Besson drives the knife home. Look at that! You see
Oh,
that?
that's nice. Yeah.
Huh?
You even get the whole slash in there. Like you see the where it started.
Yeah, but you do see kind of you see the lining right there. You see how the where the knife is, where he's got the knife, and
Yeah.
that's the panel on the right there. There's like a little slash mark right
Well,
there.
that's what I'm
Like,
saying. Like you get the whole slash. Like you can see where the cut started, right at the start there.
hmm.
Yeah.
That settles you.
So, if you want to know the importance, mythologically and historically, of this particular forest, is it is the place where Steus, which is the classical pronunciation of Zeus, uh, grew up
Hmm.
while his siblings were in the belly of his father.
Hmm. Can you repeat that? I'm sorry, I was like
Yeah.
checking on a chat
Oh, I was
there.
saying, Knossos is the forest on Crete where Steus, which is the classical pronunciation of Zeus, grew up as a child after his mother rescued him and left him there in a position where his father Cronus would not have seen him, while his siblings were still in the stomach of their father because Cronus knew that his children or one of his children were going to kill him one day. It was predicted by the fates, so he would eat his children as they were born to prevent them from doing that. And his mother Rhea would take him and leave him on Crete in that forest, and that's where he grew up. That is the mythological and historical relevance of the forest they're walking through.
So Crete. The correct pronunciation is crate, not Crete.
The classical pronunciation would have been Crete.
Crete.
The modern pronunciation is everybody just calls it Crete.
Okay.
And it is there's nothing wrong with saying things the way that they're said modernly, especially because we're speaking English and there are English pronunciations of these words and they are completely acceptable.
All right. All right, then it's just easier for me to do it that way. Then I'll just go back to speaking the English.
Yeah, just say it the way you normally would. It is perfectly acceptable to say things in the way they would be pronounced in English. I am kind of like a nerd when it comes to this stuff, mythologically. So I have like almost an impulse to say things the way they would have been said in like the ancient Attic,
Yeah.
from like Attica.
And if I was a bit more aware, I probably would be doing that too. But
Yeah.
you know, because I'm all for you know as being as accurate as possible. Anyways, back to the story at hand here. Desson's feat amazes the professor. Hmm. I can't understand how you killed it. I never thought you had it in you. Just luck, Professor. A luxurious automobile overtakes them. Procostus is my name, gentlemen. May I offer you a lift? Where have I heard that name before? Unbelievable. I keep a number of them for my. Oh, wait, oh. I've just killed a boar in these woods, Mister Procustus. Um, Unbelievable. I keep a number of them for my hunting parties. Um, you were very brave. Procustus extends an invitation. So you plan to excavate the labyrinth. Why not stay as my guest? Meanwhile, the digging. The diggings are not distant. Hmm. Thank you, sir. We will. The next morning, they inspect the Minoan ruins. Let's see. There it is. There it is, John. The labyrinth of Daedalus. Let's put our gang to work, Professor. I'm curious. A band of natives attack suddenly. Hey, what is this? It, this is interesting, John. This is interesting, John.
A band of natives? What, native Christians?
Again, I guess again the author would seem to be a little
You could
either
have said a band of
ignorant
locals at the
recent of the
same time.
time or something very apocryphal is happening here.
Yeah, yeah, like you should have just said a band of locals at the same time, because I would assume most people who live on the island are native, right? Like they're Christians. That's it.
Yeah. The excavation is turned into a struggling arena. Swing at him, Professor. We've got him on the run. Dr. Thurston is puzzled as the natives flee. There they go. What do you suppose they're up to? Hmm. I'm beginning to have suspicions of our host, John. Procastus laughs off the attack. Hmm. What do you think about that gang, Mr. Procastus? Ho ho! I mustn't think about it. It too seriously. Just a band of superstitious cretins. I guess that's where we get the word cretin from, right?
Yes, the word Cretan are people from Crete. That's exactly where the word comes from.
Even though there is another meaning that usually most when people hear the word cretin, there's usually another meaning attached to it. Like somebody is not considered like of high intelligence or the like or anything like that. Like they're kind of a bit more simple minded, right?
Oh, and people also used to say it closer to how people would say Crete's name. In some older things, you hear people literally calling someone a cretin.
Yeah. So let's see. Cercion, the evil looking servant, answers his master's call. Hmm. Cercion, I want you to care for these gentlemen tonight. Do you understand? Perfectly, master. That night, a silent hulk steals into their room. Again, it's very interesting how he says that. A silent hulk steals into their room. Of course, because obviously, some of the wording here would not be how we obviously like the word steal here just means to sneak in, even though most people today may not know that particular meaning. The only reason I know it, reason maybe some people here know it's because we've talked about this before when we've seen it used during this time period.
Yeah, well, if you were to extrapolate, right, into why it means the same thing, he basically took the entry without permission.
Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. All right. Who is that? A terrible struggle takes place in the darkness. Great Scott, John, what's happened? Ugh! The professor lights a candle. Holy smoke! It's Cercion. Um, his neck his neck's broken. You finished him. Ouch.
Well, I hope they have really good self-defense laws on the island of Crete.
In 1940.
Or like ever.
Yeah. The beds reveal hidden torture racks. We were due for a stretching. I expected something like this. A motor roars in the courtyard below. There, there goes Procostus. I knew he had a hand in it. We better notify the military authorities. You've done us a favor in killing this brute. We've been watching him for some time. The professor's suspicions are substantiated. This clears up the mysterious disappearance of several other scientists. For some reason, Mr. Procostus doesn't want the labyrinth excavated. Several weeks later, actual wall, the actual wall of the labyrinth is uncovered. We dig no deeper now, Master. Already reached labyrinth. Eureka! Just in time for my birthday tomorrow. What a present, Professor. Can you imagine getting an open excavation for your birthday present, Middle?
I would love that actually, especially in that area.
Yeah,
Listen,
I
there
would think
would
a lot of
actually.
there'd probably be more people than maybe want to real. I mean, I think on some level, there might be some at least curiosity by most people, if that were to be the case. You
I don't
know,
know. I think I would be on cloud nine if I was the person that found the real labyrinth.
uh,
But again, this is also something I've kind of been obsessed with mythology and old world stories in general
mhm,
since I was in elementary school. Like I probably started reading them in the second grade, and I read through everything that was available in my
mhm.
public library, even like the college level books. So like
Wow.
I'm a weird exception here.
Well,
That's
I
why I know
mean,
all this stuff off the top of my head too.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, sometimes you get into something like that, and hello, Comdot. One of my newer viewers who's been coming on of late. Welcome to the stream. Hopefully, you're enjoying the show thus far. Here, we're going through these older comics. So, hello, Mike, and hello, the metal. Uh,
There's actually in Act Two of X Dynamis Chaos, the novelized form.
huh.
The first three chapters have to do with Crete and going down into the labyrinth itself. So
Wow,
I'm
that's
actually kind of familiar. I've had to research a lot about the area and stuff and all of this. So yeah, you're talking to somebody who particularly this would be one of the best birthday gifts you could ever get.
yeah. Well, for me, one of the reasons I picked this story is because thus far, and I know we probably will get more into it when particularly when we do get to 1941 and Wonder Woman's first appearance, and much later on maybe with Aquaman. I think we're already getting it with Submariner as well. More of that kind of some of the Greek influenced material that was in some of these comics and back in these days as well. You know, Death and Son of the Gods. So, anyways, let's continue on here. What tomorrow's your birthday? Destin is too elated to notice the professor's amazement. We'll knock off now. First thing in the morning, we'll open that wall. Hmm. Things are happening fast. You're in for a surprise, old boy. That night, a terrific thunderstorm reveals the laborers stealing up um, to the scientist's tent. This storm is an omen, brothers. What are you men up to, walking around in this weather? We beg you not to dig in the labyrinth on the morrow. It is a sacred day. The professor explains after the men leave. Hmm. They're right, John. Tomorrow is the day of pianoption, sacred to Theseus. If the, um, if that's the case, I'll work alone. They can have the day off. I don't know. I would say that it's not even that. I think it's a little bit more than that. What would you say to my theory there, Metal?
It's probably more than that. Also, just so you know, it is pronounced Payen Epsilon. Um, so if you just say
Pioneer
Payen Epsilon is
Epsilon.
fine. Yeah,
Huh?
Payen Epsilon's fine. Um,
Right.
if you see a Y used, it's usually used for the actual sound I,
Right.
which eyes did not make. Either that, or you will see the what's it called? The diphthong of an A and an I together to make the I sound. Um,
Hmm.
but it does tell us what time of the year this is, though, because typically it is on the seventh day of October historically. But if you remember, October used to be where November is now before they reordered months. So it's probably on the seventh day of November. But that tells us that we're in late fall in the story.
Hmm.
And also, it's an Athenian holiday. I don't see why the people of Crete would, follow it.
You mentioned the 7th of October,
Yeah.
right? Um, do you have any? Were you aware that day has a significance for me?
No, I was not.
October 7th, 1975, the day I came into this world.
Oh, well. Oh, so your birthday actually just passed recently.
Right, it passes
Yeah.
past Monday. Right.
We'll have a very late Merry Life ceremony.
Thanks. Of course, I share the same exact birth date with professional wrestler Rhino as well. So he also was born on October 7th. And it was also the day, of course, that Carlton Fish hit that home run that took
The
the Red Sox to Game 7 against Cincinnati Red before losing the 1975 World Series that year as well. So, anyways, all right. So moving on to the next thing here. Desson enters the excavation next morning, unaware of lurking enemies. Let's see whether you can escape this time. Actually, that's Procastus. I thought that was Desson, but hmm. Let's see if you can whether you can escape this time, Desson. The silence is shattered by a terrific explosion. Crash! Look out! The immense column of stone falls on the assassins. Dr. Thesson, miraculously unhurt, makes a discovery. Hmm. This was either an earthquake or a piece of Procastus work. What's this? Do you see what he's looking at right there?
Oh,
Metal?
sorry, I muted myself. Well, it looks like a box of sorts.
Yeah. See how this all. The box yields a crude gold ring. I haven't time to find out. Look at this. Um, are you all right? Are you all right, John? Zeus be with us, the ring of Poseidon. Theseus is born again. Professor Craig examines the ancient ring. John, I knew you'd find it. You're fated for great things. I am not so sure, Professor. I'm not so sure I understand, Professor. John, I actually believe that you're a reincarnation of Theseus. You killed a boar just as Theseus slew the Chromionian boar.
Close enough, yeah.
What?
Is this close enough? Yeah.
I'm doing the best I can.
Yeah, yeah. That's all that matters.
Procostus was really Procrustes, who tortured his guest on the rack ages ago. You strangled Circean, just as Theseus killed Circean. Even your name suggested. What? Natives flock from miles around at the news. Theseus lives! He has come to save the world! A body of elders calls at Theson's tent. We greet you. We greet your coming tonight. Tonight you will be inducted in the holy festival of Thesia. The faithful ceremony takes place under flickering torches. With the immortal ring of Poseidon, conqueror. A hush falls on the crowd as Thesan accepts the reincarnation. Hmm. Will you pledge yourself to endless combat against tyranny, crime, and destruction? Father, I pledge it. Having dedicated himself to the service of mankind, John Dustin encounters breathtaking adventures in the next issues of exciting comics. Don't miss them. All right, so we're done with this first story, Metal.
I have issues.
I was just about to ask overall impressions.
I mean, it's a fun story. They get the main story of Theseus' life, with him going down into the labyrinth and being the one that slays the Minotaur. Correct, right? There are definitely things that connections make sense. Theseus' father was Poseidon, so it would be his ring, being the key that makes them know that the guys come back. Kind of, sort of makes sense. As far as I know, the Cretians never followed that holiday. It was an Athenian holiday, but given the fact that Crete is an island that was under the rule of Poseidon, that makes sense as well, at least if you're going to make those connections. The idea that Theseus would be reincarnated, though, kind of doesn't track. Yes, a lot of the Hellenia people believed that souls would cycle back into the world after spending a period into the underworld. That wasn't a necessarily wide belief, like everybody believed it, but there were definitely sects of it that believed that. Um, the idea that a hero like that would be reincarnated or cycle back into the world? Probably not, because they would have been given a promising afterlife in the Elysian fields. So that's like my one big issue with the story. But it could also just be that they really want to believe that he would come back. And all these coincidences let this guy just kind of like roll through and people believe it whether it's true or not. That's an option.
Yeah. Well, it does make though for it does make, even if some of it may seem somewhat apocryphal, as you're obviously the more the expert on Greek mythos and all that, um, but it does make though still for a very interesting premise for a story and for a feature. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it was interesting enough.
Yeah.
It probably much more interesting to people who don't know as much about these myths.
Right. So for the time, it would have been an interesting drawing point then.
Still
For
have an
people.
issue with their depiction of the Minotaur, though. That's
Yeah,
it's almost inexcusable.
yeah. I mean, I know one of the questions I'm going to probably answer later once we've read all the stories, but I have a feeling I already know one of the answers. Unless we see something, unless we see issues of the other stories. Um, but anyways, let's get ready to move on to the next story from this another 8 pager, which will be the Sphinx. Should I get over there? We're already at the 50-minute mark here, so I know I'm going to probably need to go a little faster here. Um, the
Well,
Sphinx.
hopefully there'll be less rants on mythology squeezed in there too.
Well, here's another one that might have some mythos involved. The Sphinx. The Sphinx. Ellsworth Forrester, known to the world as a society playboy. Oh, another society playboy hero. Wasn't that pretty common back in this time period?
Yeah, it's because it's what everybody wanted to be.
Yeah. In reality, the Sphinx, powerful undercover worker of the Metropolitan Police Force. The Sphinx picks up a radio alarm at his club. Attention, police! Intercept speeding car on Grand Boulevard. Emergency. They're coming right down the street. I'll look into it. The fugitive car careens toward the Sphinx. Look, that guy in the mask is trying to stop us. Watch me run him down. With amazing speed, the masked man eludes the overrushing vehicle, leaping to the running board. He twists the wheel out of the driver. A terrific crash follows. Fooled you, didn't I? I need to go off camera here for a moment. Metal, why don't you talk to the chat for a moment? It looks like we have Goodnight Spoon here too. So I'll be right back.
If you say so. Hey everybody, how you doing? I think aside from just saying hi to Goodnight Spoon, I believe we have said hi to every person who's come into the chat. Goodnight Spoon, I hope you're ready for Monday. Having waited your whole week for us to talk about the fair. I brought that up earlier when he asked, "Hey, is there anything coming up on the vomitorium soon?" And then I remembered we are talking about that on Monday. So I'll give you a little preview on it. I probably enjoyed it more than you thought I was going to. I wouldn't say it was great, but I did find it enjoyable.
Hmm. All right. Anyways, hopefully with what I just did, hopefully that my nose won't bug me as much now. So, anyways, were you finished telling Goodnight Spoon what he wanted to know?
I don't know if I told him what he wanted to know, but I told him what I was willing to tell him.
All right. How dare you keep me in suspense? All right. So, anyways, continuing on here, the terror-stricken driver makes his escape. I'm getting out of. I'm getting out of here. That guy's a wizard. Hey, you! Stop! Retrieving a briefcase, the Sphinx makes a discovery. Plans for the new mystery tank being built for the government, and these men were instructed to deliver them to um, Cessprit, the Cessprit at Pier 38 or Sea Sprite at Pier 38. Um, they must be spies. You notice how he made that? He made that deduction pretty quickly. Oh, they must be spies based on that little set of information.
Honestly, given the era, I think you probably need even less information to assume somebody's a spy.
Hmm. Good
There,
point.
there's spies everywhere.
The Sphinx returns the plans. Hmm. The company should be more careful with its blueprints. Um, Oliver D. Thompson, president of the corporation, does not recognize his fellow club member. Hmm. I think you'll want these blueprints back, Mr. Thompson. I certainly do, but who are you? Thompson reveals an alien plot. I'm a police operative. How did those blueprints get out of your plant? Hmm. We're manufacturing a new type. I'm sorry. We're manufacturing a new type tank on government contract. Foreign powers are using any means to get the plans. I'm Sanders, the plant foreman. I noticed blueprints missing just an hour ago, and told Mr. Thompson immediately. Let's see. Let's see. Removing his mask, the Sphinx reports to the Sea Sprite with a dummy set of plans. Hmm. Here's the ship. I'll find out who's behind this. The ship's captain receives the sealed envelope. Here are the blueprints, sir. You shouldn't have come aboard so openly. Report below as a stoker until we reach the fatherland.
That's a dangerous job.
What a stoker!
Yeah, just stoking the flames and the bellows of the ship. That's a very dangerous job.
Oh boy. Uh, Hiding outside the captain's quarters, the Sphinx finds he is suspected. You blunderer! How do we know who he is? You'd better see what's in that envelope. Hmm. A few minutes later, the captain and his men confront the Sphinx. You didn't think you could palm off those fake plans did you take him, men? The captain retreats. The captain retreats as the Sphinx hurls the attacking sailors all over the hold. Let's see. This bulkhead will hold him. Lay a fuse to the tanks. I'm blowing up the ship. With mighty strength, the Sphinx crushes through the bulkhead. Wow, that guy's pretty strong, isn't he?
Yes, yes, he is. He's punching
Being able to
through
punch a hole through a bulkhead like that?
steel. Yes, probably multiple layers thick.
Dang. Wouldn't want to be caught fighting that guy in a dark alley, I guess. You won't stop me this way either. The Sea Sprite's crew, the Sea Sprite's crew is making off in a launch. Get her moving before the ship goes up. Making a break, are you? Let's see. La Song, the launch, or lassoing the launch, the Sphinx draws it back to the ship. Come on back, boys. We're coming up against the ship's side. We'll be blown to bits. I've got the motor set at full speed ahead. That guy is stronger than our engine. That must be a terrifying thought. As the Sea Sprite explodes, its crew falls victim to their own plot. The Sphinx yanks loose a section of the wreckage from the doomed ship. This should keep me afloat. I know you haven't said much in this story, Metal.
I'm doing calculations.
Calculations? Calculations
Yeah.
based on what or for what?
I'm trying to figure out how much energy it would take to punch through a bulkhead like that.
Ah, that'd be a very interesting fact to know. Hmm. He sees a woman struggling in the water. Help! Well, if it isn't the girl who tipped off the captain, the rescued girl refuses to talk. I'll tell you, I, I'm only the stewardess aboard the Sea Sprite. Save that for the FBI. As the Sphinx pushes the wreck the wreckage ashore, the girl escapes. Hey, that's gratitude. At his home, the Sphinx speculates on the theft of the plans. Wonder if somebody at Thompson's plant can be responsible for this. I think I'll go back there and have a look around. That night, the Sphinx slips into Thompson's office as he leaves. My friend, the stewardess. I'll duck back in here. The Sphinx watches as the girl ransacks Thompson's desk. She's taken a telegram. I'll follow her. Before the Sphinx can interfere, the girl is yanked into a mysterious car. What's going on here? Hurry up, hurry up. Get that car started. Someone's coming.
Okay, I figured it out. Given the circumstances that I have to estimate just by looking at it, I can't know what the exact stress factors are on that bulkhead, but it is slightly less impressive than punching through a brick wall, which, again, if you could punch through a brick wall, that would be impressive as well. That on average takes about 8,000 joules of force for a fist to do. Your fist would probably just shatter trying to do that if you weren't superhuman. You would meet, again, slightly less, probably in the range of 7,000 to 7,500 joules to get through that bulkhead. And that's
Wow.
just because if you can manage to penetrate it, it would start to tear like canvas at the fracture point. And that's why it's slightly less impressive, but still, that's if you penetrate it. Now, if you can't penetrate it, it will flex more than a brick wall would. And sans penetration, you would need a lot more force, and we're probably looking for something closer to 12,000 joules. But
Wow.
a knuckle at the speed he's punching might be able to penetrate anyway. So it's probably closer to the 7,500.
Basically him throwing a punch with as much acceleration as possible. You're saying theoretically he could actually penetrate the
Yeah,
wall,
yeah,
just
because the smaller the
generating the
surface
force.
area,
Yeah, generating the force needed to actually
yeah.
open that up.
Yeah,
Okay.
like a bullet could do it with less force, so probably closer to 4,500 joules. But that's because of how small the surface area is and how fast the bullet's going. The bigger the surface area that makes contact, the more force you need to get past the
Right.
what you would call the tensile strength of the object you're hitting.
Right. The tensile strength, is that the kind of the flexing part
Yeah,
of the part of it?
tensile strength is a strength that holds things together. That's how like much elasticity it would
Hmm.
have. Like a snowball has very low tensile strength, so it takes barely any shear force to get through it. A snowball will break on the next thing you throw it on. But then, like a steel bulkhead, has a huge tensile strength by comparison and takes a lot of shear force to get through.
Hmm. All right. So as we, of course, continue on with the story here, that was kind of interesting. Some of the analysis there. Thank you for that,
Well,
Colonel.
I had to look up how thick a bulkhead typically is, and it's usually about 1 inch of steel on a freight or cargo ship.
All right. So as the car roars off, he picks up the stolen telegram. They made their getaway. Let's see what this is about. They will double us and send bid sky high if necessary. Wonder what it means. Early next morning, a call comes from Thompson. Hmm. The police must have given him my private wire. Yes, this is the Sphinx, Mr. Thompson. I'll be right down. Thompson wants an investigation. I'm calling on you for help. Those foreign agents are growing bolder. They raided my office last night. Could um could this be one of the things they took? The telegram is explained. You certainly work fast. However, this telegram isn't important. It just mentions another firm's attempt to get the contract. Hmm. I think your plant foreman is the one to watch. After work, the Sphinx trails Saunders, the foreman. So that's where he hangs out. Stealing to a window, the Sphinx finds an old acquaintance in serious trouble. Hmm. So you won't tell us that your what your game is, huh? Okay, switch on the current, Mike. Uh, oh, you see who's in the chair there, Metal?
Yes.
Recognize who it is? The girl.
Yep. Yeah. No, I recognize it. I just don't remember her name already. I forgot, but like I know who it
Well,
is.
I don't even think they said her name. You know, she was just the stewardess.
Well, that's even more understandable why I don't remember her name, but
Yeah,
I recognize the way she looks
yeah.
with her perky little boobs down there.
Anyways, the Sphinx crashes through. The Sphinx crashes through the door of the shack. Hmm. It's the guy with the mask. Pile on him, man. 5,000 volts surge through the Sphinx's body as he snatches the girl from the torture chair. Just in time, just in time. This shock is a little weak for me, Saunders. The gang rushes the Sphinx um, with disastrous results. You and me are going places, sister. Looking for trouble, are you? Um, well, here's plenty. Wow, he's got him in a front. He's got him in a basically a front chokehold right there. You see that?
Yeah. Very awkward drawing though.
Very awkward drawing. What
Yeah,
do you mean
yeah.
by that?
Well, just by trying to figure out where his other shoulder would be, like that's just drawn very awkwardly.
Hmm.
Um, I think maybe he just needed more reference on that. You'd be like, "Hey, could two other people from the office just come in here and fake a chokehold for a second so I can draw it better?"
Okay. Interesting.
Listen, if you have friends, it becomes a lot easier to draw things because you'd be like, "Hey, could you just stand in this position for just a couple minutes while I get the gesture drawing down?"
Hmm. Let's see. Saunders pushes the girl down a trap door. Hmm. Let's go. As the Sphinx cleans up on the gang, his quarry eludes him. Bad luck. Saunders has gotten away with the girl. Thompson receives the Sphinx report with amazement. Hmm. So you're right about Saunders. No wonder he didn't report for work this morning. As they walk across the assembly floor mezzanine, the Sphinx points. Look, it's a holdup. Saunders and his gang hold the entire plant at bay. Blow the plant whistle, will you? Will you take that? Wow, kind of nasty, isn't he? There with the gunshot to the guy's gut right there, chest.
Yeah, looking at that angle, I think it's a little higher than the gut.
Yeah, it's chest. Now that I see, because I saw the I guess the explosion right there around his stomach there, but you're right. The angle was more of an upward angle there, more
Yeah,
towards the
that's like just to the left of his heart. That's going through his lung.
Hmm. The helpless girl is thrown across the conveyor belt. Hmm. Kind of hard to tell where the arrow is on this one. In 2 minutes, she'll reach that stamping machine. That'll finish her. A thug in the overhead crane lowers the hook in a lightning move. Hey!
Well, I mean, I guess if they send her through a stamping machine, they're not going to have to pay for postage.
Oh boy. The the Sphinx is swung out helplessly high above the floor. You're hooked, a bigger fish than you think, Saunders. Uh, you've hooked a bigger fish than you think, Saunders. Saunders takes over the mystery tank. I think I hear the plane. I'll drive her out. Better step on it, boss. The cops will be here. As the tank rumbles across the parking lot, a huge transport plane taxis down. Get ready to put her aboard. Meanwhile, the Sphinx has swung himself back to the balcony. I made it. Dropping to the floor, the Sphinx yawns or yanks the conveyor to a halt. The rescued girl, rather a strange spot for a stewardess. You are the man who came aboard the Sea Sprite. I thought I I thought you were a spy, but I can see we're working toward the same end. I'm Marjorie Groves of the Secret Service. Wow, what a reveal! What a reveal! Hey there, Metal.
Yeah, I think this is also a I don't know, a PSA on you shouldn't hire women to be in the Secret Service. I think we learned that again recently.
Yeah, they tend to become damsels in distress, right?
Yeah, and especially if they need a body block for someone, they tend to be a lot shorter than the person that they're blocking.
Oh yeah, you're talking about Butler.
Yeah.
You're talking about Butler, Pennsylvania,
Mhm.
a month and a half ago, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. These things that just keep coming around. It's like, why is a woman in the Secret Service at all?
Yeah. They rush outside. Look, they're loading the tank on the plane. Not yet, they're not. Reaching the reaching the huge transport in a hail of bullets, the Sphinx sends it crashing to one side. Now let's see you get away. As the alien thugs close in on the Sphinx, they are met by by a squad of police. The cops! They got Fred! All right. Up with your hands. Nice work, Sphinx. Spitting death, the mystery tank turns on the unsuspecting police. We can't stop it, Jim. Looks as though we're done for. We're now, Sanders, approaching the tank behind the huge shield of steel plate. The Sphinx smashes it to a halt. Where now, Saunders? The arch plotter is dragged from the mystery tank. I've had enough, I'll talk. The Sphinx makes a startling disclosure. Oh, look, it looks like they got her smoking there, too. You see that?
Yeah.
Look, look like she's holding something in her right hand, and then there's a couple of what maybe look
Yeah,
like
yeah.
yeah.
So
So
she's useless and a smoker. And she doesn't have a lot going for her.
oh boy. Of course, you do remember though that back in those days, smoking was actually considered sophisticated, right? You do know that, right?
Yes, no, I'm familiar. I actually don't get the modern hatred towards smoking. I think part of it comes from a lot of misconceptions to what secondhand smoke actually does to somebody. But I remember being a kid, and my dad would take me to the smoking section of IHOP for breakfast in the morning, and it just never bothered me.
Hmm. I've suspected there was something wrong at this plant all along. I saw through that telegram she stole, Thompson. It reads, "Will double us. Send bid. Send bid sky high." Meant that the foreign power would get the tank out of the country by plane. Thompson indignantly demands proof. Are you accusing me of complicity? Yes, and the time camera I installed in the bookshelf um, the other night will prove you were conspiring with Saunders this morning when he was supposed to be the fugitive. I got a higher bid for the tank from another country. I never thought you'd suspect me. That was your big mistake, Thompson. The Sphinx sees all. The Sphinx solves a thrilling mystery in our next issue. Don't miss it. All right, so we're done with that story, Metal. Overall impressions?
Overall impressions. I don't get why it's called the Sphinx, but I also have not been reading this story for a while. I'm sure it was probably explained very early on, and you just kind of know by now if you're a reader. But also, um, you know, women in Secret Service are useless. That's the lesson I learned from this. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Actually, I'm not completely sure, but I think this is actually the first Sphinx story.
So they just introduced a character without actually explaining why he's named the way he is.
Yeah, and we've talked about this. They've done this with other characters. Not, I don't know if this same company's done, but we've seen other characters like that where all of a sudden they were just kind of brought in without, their origins being like really explained.
No, I'm fine with that. Honestly, I think it makes the character cooler that they didn't explain it. I hope they never did.
Yeah, but yeah. So, anyways, let's see. Wow, now we're 23. Okay, um, so maybe we'll get through at least 4 of the 5. I'm thinking. Um, The next story will just be 6 pages, so I'll try to just breeze through that, and then I'm sure if there's something that catches your attention, um, you'll probably you feel free to chime in if something catches your attention. I'm just gonna start just trying to get through these.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
You know what? Just start reading. I'm gonna go grab another drink. I'll be able to hear you.
all right, the mask returns. District Attorney Tom Colby, blinded by gangsters, is secretly restored to sight with the aid of beautiful Carol Smith. Although still posing as a blind man in secret, he is really the mask, the nemesis of crime. Clearing up the mystery of the bank holdups, he now trails the mysterious unknown um, behind gangster Snate. The mask confers with his aides, Carol, Silk, and Butch. Any word for me, boss? They crave action. I'm after Snake's chief, whoever he is. He's planning armored car stick-ups. We'll have to keep our eyes open. That night, Tony Tony surprises an intruder um, at a safe. Who's there? I heard a noise. Get your hands up, Colby. Lucky for you, you can't see me, or I'd plug you. I got what I want, and I'm leaving. As the gangster leaves, Tony springs into action. So Tony Colby, not Tom Colby. Donning his mask and disguise, he pursues. He's stolen my crime files. I've got to find out who put him up to this. Look out, you fool! We'll both be killed. The mask attacks.
Yeah, you should never attack the person driving the car. It's a really bad idea.
Yeah, but yet they do it a lot back in these days. I mean, I think we even saw it in an earlier story, in fact. Out of control, the car crashes. The mask emerges unharmed. Secret orders instructing him to rifle my safe, bring the files to Snate, and get ready for payroll robberies. The man behind Snate wrote this. Later, Commissioner Warner calls on Tony Colby. I've brought 3 prominent citizens to call on you, Tony. They think you might be able to help find the man behind this crime wave. Bring them in, Commissioner. The visitors confer with Colby. Paul Stewart, Commissioner of Correction. Peter Gage, newspaper publisher. Otto Fox, owner of the large armored car company. Gentlemen, my personal files on the payroll holdups have been stolen. I'm afraid I can't do anything to help you. When the visitors leave, the mask goes into action. I'll get Butch a job as payroll guard. Carol is to await further orders. This is Snape's headquarters. He's going to have an unwelcome visitor. He overcomes the guard. Sleep tight, my friend. No dial on that phone. Must be a private connection. We'll see. Well, Snape, what's wrong now? Nothing, boss. Just knocked the phone over. Sorry. And that was the voice of the man above Snape. But I can't trace him by this phone. Your jujitsu's bad. Here's something I owe you. Oh, okay. Actually, I'm sorry. Snape enters and is surprised by the mask. If you make a sound, it's suicide. The gangster strikes. You ain't the type to shoot a man in the back. Over you go. yeah, okay. If he doesn't think that he's a man who will shoot him in the back, yeah, make him face you so he will shoot you, right? Does that make sense to you, Metal?
Yeah, it's a little counterproductive here.
yeah. Your jujitsu's bad. Here's something I owe you. Later, a new crime wave hits the city's armored cars. Crash! don't let any of them get away. This is gonna be a big haul. The gangsters strike again and again. Here goes another one. Like taking candy from a baby. Otto Fox appeals to the police. Hmm. You've got to do something, Warner. These crooks seem to anticipate every move my cars make. Suspecting Fox as the gangster's um, square of information or source of information, the mask invades his offices. Safe breaking is against the law, but I sense a lead here. Yeah, a hero breaking the law to solve a crime. Classic
Um,
golden
that's
age.
most of the time though. Like, right, if the whole vigilante justice thing means you're already acting outside of the law.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, this guy. If you've probably seen The Incredibles, right? You know, like how near the
I've
beginning.
never seen Mean Girl. I never got
Oh,
into
okay.
that.
So at the beginning of the movie, Mr. Incredible and Frozone, they're not allowed to be heroes anymore, but they just can't like give it up. So they're listening to a police radio, like a monitor, right? And they go to like stop a robbery, but they've got ski masks on their heads to protect their identity, and they look more like burglars than the people they're stopping. This is the vibe I get from this guy. He doesn't look like somebody who's a hero. He looks like somebody you should be arresting.
Well, it's kind of funny because the mask is actually a pretty generic alias that's used quite a bit, in Golden Age.
Yeah.
There have been both heroes and villains that have been named. I know. Off the top of my head, I know that Spy Smasher from Fawcett Comics, one of his earlier enemies was called the Mask. I think even Zatara had somebody that he faced called the Mask. So it's a pretty generic name used for an alias a lot of times for a villain, but this case for a hero who acts kind of more like a crook.
Yeah, and how many of them wear a potato sack on their head?
Oh, you'd find some very interesting. There have been some guys who just simply worn simple white hoods that make them look more like Ku Klux Klan members. Anything else back in these days?
Oh
Uh,
yeah, they're totally not trying to be Catholic penitents.
yeah. So, all right. So, anyways, back to the story here. Here's something. Armored car number 9. That's Butch's car. Sealed orders list its last stop at the Triton Garage, but that stop isn't listed in the ledger. If anything happens to it, it'll happen there. I've got Silk and Carol watching the Triton Garage. Looks as if that's where they're headed, all right. Outside the Triton, strange. The armored car's been in there for half an hour. I'm going in and see what's doing. This guy sure is tough. We gotta finish him. Look! A dramatic fight. How do you like this, you rats? Come on, boys. He ain't got but 6 shots in that gun. Pistol empty, the mask. Life is at stake. But then Butch strikes. No, you don't, heel. Now you know back then they would often call a bad guy heel, right?
Yes.
And it's kind of funny because in cartoons as well, heel was used as kind of like a derogatory term, right? You know, I remember seeing a few cartoons where when a character kind of started to feel guilty because he knew he did something wrong, his head they'd turn his head into like the heel of heel of a shoe or something like that. Hmm. They kid they kidnapped Carol and Silk, boss. They drove them out together with the gold from the armored car in a truck marked um, Looms of Florist. If I'd only followed that truck, Nate won't take them to his headquarters. He's afraid I'll turn up there. They find a clue. This pen has Peter Gage's name on it. What's it doing here? Bet a million he's the guy behind Snake. At home, Colby receives a call from Fox. Cage is at the bottom of these robberies. His newspaper made Stewart release Snake's men from jail, claimed they deserved another chance. Hmm. I'll talk to Gage. Meanwhile, in a secret gang hideout. So you don't know how to reach the mask. Write the letter anyway. We'll send it to the newspapers and let 'em advertise. That'll bring him out in the open. He won't believe it's from me. Better let me send him this necklace as a token. At Gage's newspaper offices, the mask I was just going to advertise for you. These came a few minutes ago. Come to Pier 14 at midnight alone, or you will never see me again. I'm sending you this necklace as a token, Carol. Later, the mask deciphering Carol's clever code. These beads form a code message. Come to 124 Blaine Street. Danger, Carol. Wow! What a clue! What a clue! There, metal.
I'm trying to decide if that really is because here's the problem. Like the beads make a loop, right? So even if you're decoding them, it might take you a while to figure out where in the loop you're actually supposed to start.
Hmm. Well, I guess he's just got kind of that quick of a brain to where he figured it out like that. Hmm. This is a place, if I read the necklace message right. My fists are itching, boss. Or my fists are itching, boss. Let's go in. Inside the garage, the mask strikes. This is a cinch. The mask will follow those orders, and the boys will blow him in half. Not quite. Snape's men are routed. Great going, Butch. That was splendid, Mask, but Snape's escaped. He won't get far. I can guess where he's bound for. Let's go. And I'm sure that Snape's boss, is not going to be too happy about that. Have you discovered who the man behind Snape is? Yes. He tried to incriminate Gage by leaving his fountain pen in the Triton garage, but he came to my home later with his coat stained by the peculiar violet ink, which was in the pen of pen Otto Fox. Meanwhile, the jig's up, Fox. The mask wiped out the whole gang. He'll be coming after me soon. There's only two of us left to split now. Your cut's made of lead, my friend. As Fox prepares to escape, he is interrupted. Going somewhere, Fox? The mask! a struggle to the death. This ends your little scheme, Big Shot. Now for the police.
I mean, yes, killing someone for the most part usually ends whatever they were planning, unless the plan is bigger than them.
Yeah. Next morning at police headquarters, it says here your guilty man and the savage and the swag signed the mask. How did this come here, Murphy? I don't know, Commissioner. It was here when I opened up. We've only begun. There will be more work for the mask. Crime never dies. Watch for the next thrilling episode of The Mask. All right, Metal. Overall impressions of this story.
Um, hmm. My overall impressions of it. Tame.
What was that?
Tame, I guess. I don't know. I didn't find it all that interesting. Uh, I kept getting taken out of the fact that the person that we were following looked more like a criminal than the people he was beating up on, which I guess is almost a form of subversion to a point for the era, right?
Mhm.
As you were starting to depict criminals as like classier people, like gangsters and stuff, who'll have like a level of class, suits, and everything. Um, while you make the main character wearing this bag on his head almost look like a thug. But aside from that, I just didn't find it all that interesting.
Hmm. All right. So now that we, of course, now that we got through that, so now let's go take a look. And I do know that it is 141, so I'm going to try to get through at least one more story, if not both of them, pretty quick here. We're going to go to Thrilling Comics Volume 1, Issue 4 next. And then,
Well, hopefully it will truly be thrilling.
yeah. Well, we got one story is from standard version of their version of the ghost, and the other story, the if we get to it, the woman in red. So, um, Thrilling Comics featuring a complete Doctor Strange. Now they also had their own Doctor Strange, and the only reason I don't do this Doctor Strange is because I did try to read his origin story, but it was way too long. I didn't even get it in one sitting. So, I just haven't continued to read it because of that. And the Doctor Strange story. The ghost. The ghost strikes again. Look at that. I'm guessing the guy on the right is probably the ghost with the
I'm gonna
hat.
make that assumption. Yeah.
The ghost strikes again. Uh, Raised and tutored in mysterious India, George Chance has learned all the great magic of the yogis. Coming to America, he puts his strange powers to work in fighting crime, masquerading as the ghost. He becomes the nemesis of the underworld. An accidental encounter. Blast that! Blast that guy out of the way, Al. I'll fill him with lead. As the machine gun turns a withering a withering blast on Chance, an amazing transformation takes place. The ghost um, stands behind them. Whoa! The bullets can't even hurt him. Look, it's The ghost. Looks like crime is picking up lately. I'll have to get busy again. The ghost little realizes the truth of his words. One by one, America's most famous leaders begin to drop from, from sight. What do you want? You're coming with us, Senator. The kidnappings continue. None of the victims are ever heard from again. No ransom demands. These are no ordinary kidnappings. Or kidnappings.
I just got the joke, right?
What?
What's this guy's last name?
Chance?
The joke is you don't have a ghost of a chance.
George Chance. Okay. Interesting observation there. The police call on George Chance for assistance. The whole country's up in arms. We've followed every possible clue and got nowhere. Our most able leaders are vanishing. I'll get to work on the case at once, Commissioner. Um, Yogi Magic conjures up the face of the next kidnap victim. District Attorney Bob Standish. So he's to be next on the list. A visit to the district attorney. Me kidnapped? Ridiculous. They wouldn't dare. Don't try to resist them. I'll see that no harm comes to you. Next, eyeing the crystal ball reveals an alarming sight. Great Scott! They're taking the DA. Hindu wizardry carries the ghost to Standish's home with the speed of light. They've got they've got him uh, they've got him in that car now to follow. The kidnappers' car speeds through the night. Above it, um, upheld by upheld by strange magic, floats the body of the ghost. The trail grows warm. The car enters the gates of a mysterious old mansion. I'll have to move carefully now. Approaching the let's see. Approaching the closed gates, the ghost is stopped by the warning vision of a yogi. Stand back, son. To touch these gates spells death. I am grateful, O venerable one. Let's see. He surmounts the wall. There's more than one way to clear an obstacle. At a wave of his hand, bare doors swing open. Open! Suddenly, an alarm sounds. An armed guard surround him. Get him! How'd he get in here? He's a spy! Kill him! Caught by surprise, the ghost is overwhelmed by superior numbers. He ain't human. A captive, the ghost, is led into the presence of the ringleader. You dare to intrude, you will find it unwise to meddle in the affairs of Professor Fenton. Such as kidnapping, Professor? The ghost's death sentence is passed. You know too much, my friend. Kill him, Tony. Here goes, boss. The ghost disappears in a puff of smoke. The bullets strike empty air. I got nothing to shoot at. He ain't there no more. He can't fool me that way. I'll get him.
This seems like a very common thing where people just disappear into smoke in these comics.
Yeah. Again, I think that's just a way they apply mysticism at this point in time. In stories.
Oh yeah, because there's always tales of like magicians who studied in like what they would have called the Orient at the time, right? And they come back
Right.
and they always enter on stage in a poof of smoke, and they leave in a poof of smoke too.
Yeah. Then the next moment, the two Standishes stand side by side. The guy's a spook. You're dangerous, friend, but I can deal with you. Which one? Which one? Which one is he? The two men are placed beneath a glass dome of a strange device. The machine. This machine can send you back in time to my age, to any age since the world began. Thus, I have disposed of America's greatest men. Later, I shall take over control of the entire nation and bring them back due time to serve as my. Oh, what a plot! What do you think of that plot right there? So you're going to kidnap all the leaders of America, send them back in time. Then once America's in chaos, then you're going to bring back all those same leaders to serve as slaves. What do you think of that plot,
Why
Bill?
even have the time travel? That part just seems completely unnecessary. You could lock them in like a submarine for a year or something, and it would solve the same problem since you're just going to bring them back anyway.
I mean, man, I
The
mean,
time travel just seems unnecessary.
I I've even thought of crazy stuff like that. Just for the fun of what I do if I could do something. I mean, I think we've all had thoughts like that at times. But
I would turn to the person doing this, be like, "You invented a time machine, and this is what you're doing with it? Couldn't you be a little more creative?"
you know what's so funny about what you just said right there? You know what's so funny about what you just said? At least part of that line you just said, right?
Yeah,
You about the idea of inventing something and this is what you could do with it.
yeah,
That is from a Justice League episode. The Justice League episode that, of course, featured Peter McNichol and Enid Kent as the voices of David and Mrs. Clinton. About what David Clinton was Kronos,
yeah.
and it's kind of funny because even Batman kind of locks him in a loop of a particular moment of his life where she's just constantly telling him, you think of an invention like this and this is what you come up with? Because he was going back and stealing like trinkets, and she thought that he could have gone back in time and actually maybe stolen like jewels and gold and all that. And he's all worried about messing up the time stream, and she doesn't care. She just wants him to be something more than just some That's
Yeah, I
just
don't remember this at all, but like, I mean, it's just the first thought that comes to my head. Like, you're going to put them somewhere else, and then you're just going to bring them back. So, like, this plan altogether really doesn't rely on time traveling actually being a thing. You could solve this any other way of just keeping, you could put them in cold storage, like cryo freeze them until you're ready to keep them back as slaves. It just really doesn't matter. I,
it's one of those logical leaps that we find, right? That's just it's just making more out of a plot than is necessary. It's like, right?
why not just go back to the very beginning, establish a family line, and instead of like America being a republic, you could have just made it a monarchy. And then when you came back, like, you have time travel. You can make people think you're a god, the person who established the line, and then the modern monarchs just serve you. Like, there's simpler and more interesting things you could do with this.
Which just goes to show you about what the creativity of the some of these authors were at the time, right? Um, Anyways, let's continue on with the story there. As Fenton pulls the switch, the ghost and Standish are whirled back through the ages, and you do see they're all kind of we see like the I guess the time maybe like Washington crossing the Potomac right there, among other things. Let's see. The journey ends abruptly in a large cave in the light of weird blue beam. Oh, in the light of weird. Okay. Hmm. Why, you're George Chance, the man who warned me about the kidnappers. Yes, and if you look around, you'll see that we're some of the other kidnap victims for company. Hmm. Wait till they wait till they see where they've landed. From the mouth of the cave, they see a strange sight. What an odd landscape. What are those animals down there? I'll take a look at them through these glasses. An amazing sight. A dinosaur. Look at that.
Yeah, this is a really bad plan. If you were planning on bringing these people back, why would you drop them in the middle of nowhere in one of the harshest environments in the planet's history for them to survive? I mean, not even just getting eaten. We've known probably since like the 1800s and earlier paleontology that the atmosphere conditions of when the dinosaur lives were different than us. So you're putting people in a denser atmosphere where it's going to be harder for them to breathe. This is just dumb. Like, this is a stupid
Well,
plan.
yeah, but again, I think part of it is because the level of because I mean,
Well, it's definitely the level of research of the writer because we've also known for longer than that that humans and dinosaurs, aside from the avian ones that are still alive today, never existed at the same time. So there were no cavemen with a brontosaurus.
yeah, but yeah, in fiction, we've seen many examples of them integrating cavemen with dinosaurs, right? In
Yeah,
fiction.
which never happened.
Yeah. They are headed back into the cave by uh, they are herded back into the cave by fierce warriors. What's it all about, Ghost? We're back in the Stone Age. Those were dinosaurs out there, and we're held captive by prehistoric Neanderthal men. They plan escape. Let's see. Our first step is to get away from his influence. We've got to escape from this cave. These savages will do anything, Fenton. Fenton says they think he's a god. He uses this cave as a Stone Age base and comes through time on a blue beam and his machine throws. Oh, so somehow at some point prior to the start of the story, I guess the bad guy here went back in time and established a relationship with Neanderthal men. Quite a fantastic story, huh, there, Metal?
Yeah, it'd be kind of hard to actually establish a relationship with them, though. Like, they wouldn't have any actual form of speech, really.
Yeah.
Not anything that's consistent, given the type that they're dealing with. So it's like you'd have to talk with them the same way you talk to a dog.
Yeah. Led by the ghosts, they attack the cavemen. A hot battle ensues. Let's go! Good work, men. We're winning. We're winning through. Um, take that. They flee with the Neanderthals in hot pursuit. They're after us. We'll have to run for it. I'm afraid we'll never make it. They enter a dead end canyon and are trapped. We should never have come here. Now they've got us. Not yet. They haven't. Watch this. Strange Hindu magic saves the trapped men. See, the cavemen pursue our the cavemen pursue our astral shadows. We are free to leave, friends.
You know, it's another thing that I always laugh at. You look how big the Neanderthals are supposed to be here, right? And some
Mm-hmm.
of them they're depicted as being bigger than the men that were put there, or at least the same size. And it's something that's always wrong because on average, people were smaller in the past, and Neanderthal were considered taller than their other like contemporary humans.
Mm-hmm.
Because Neanderthals are technically a type of Homo sapien. Um, but that's for the ones at the time. Do you know how tall the average Neanderthal male was?
I'm sure you do. I don't,
Yeah,
but something tells
five
me
point
you
four
do.
inches or 5.4 feet.
What was that?
5.4 feet, so just under 5.5 feet tall. So about 5'4", 5'5".
5455. And I think
So
that's
more
actually,
Neanderthals were
if I
closer to
remember
Barney
correctly,
Rubble than Fred
isn't that
Flintstone.
the average height of a woman?
In the United States today, yes.
Hmm.
And the female Neanderthal on average was about 5 foot even.
Hmm. So they were kind of small to begin with.
Yeah, but they were big compared to humans at the same time that they were still around, or like what you would consider Homo sapien, the other breed of human, because Homo sapien would have been like a man would have been 5 foot even at that time, maybe
Hmm.
somewhat smaller too. It took forever for people to get really big because of nutrition. You go to back to the Greeks that we were talking about before. A Spartan soldier, the average man was like 5 foot two.
Hmm. Hmm. All right. So, anyways, getting ready to continue on with the story, and I know we're already past the 2 hour mark. So I guess this will probably be the last story, um, because we still have the this day in each history segment and the closing arc. So, um, again, danger looms with a roar. A gigantic triceratops attacks. Come to my aid, O power of the yogis. The ghost casts a spell, and out of nowhere, an enemy dinosaur appears. The reptiles meet in deadly combat. Next day, the party runs into an ambush. Look, Piltdown men, stand firm. The Piltdowns stand against as the ghost spell lifts their leader into the air. Hold back, savage! Next moment, he assumes great um, proportions and towers above the frightened natives. Would you do us harm? Like, guy grows giant size like that, looking down on a bunch of little people, and it goes, so you still want to fight, basically? Uh, Falling to their knees, they worship him as a god. This little trick gives me an idea. A clever plan. Hmm. These natives will do anything for me now. We'll go back to the cave and attack the Neanderthals. If it works, um, I think I know how we can get back into the 20th century. On the way to the cave, we'll have to get the Neanderthals out of the way and wait for Fenton to come over the beam. Then I'll go into action. Suddenly, a pterodactyl strikes. Look, he's a gunner. Not if I can help it. The ghost, great running jump, downs the reptile. The great beast rallies to attack, but disappears in a burst of flames. Vanish, vanish, marauder of the air. You work miracles, ghost. The party reaches the cave, led by the ghost. The Piltdowns charge. Good work, men. Keep it up. We've got him on the run. Victorious, the Piltdowns leave, driving their captives before them. That's only the first step. Let's go up to the cave and pray that the rest comes through as easily. Looks like we won out. Back in the cave. Hide yourselves well. When the time beam appears, I'm going to try to write it back into the 20th century, but never mind how. The ghost waits patiently. At last, the strange blue beam brings Fenton into the cave. What's this? They're gone? He's here now to make myself invisible. Mad with rage at the absence of his captives, Fenton enters the beam again. Unseen, the shadowy figure of the ghost accompanies him. Those blasted cavemen, let them get away. Good, he can't see me. Back in the 20th century, Fenton's assistants work the time controls. Okay, Bill. The boss wants to get back. Yank the switch. Fenton speeds through time to his laboratory, but the ghost is still with him. Those fools will never be heard from again. Come on, men. They're gone. Now I'm free to work. Alone, the ghost operates the controls. The kidnapped men return. There they are, back from the Stone Age. Escape. If Fenton learns of our escape, he'll destroy his time machine to keep it out of hands of the law. We must remain in hiding. There are many other kidnapped victims, Standish. We'll bring them back through time from the ages they're hidden in. Then we'll smash Fenton for good. The ghost strikes through the ages. In the next issue, don't miss it. All right, so we're at the end of that story. As I said, I know we're already past the 2 hour mark, so we're like 2 hours and 10 minutes. So I think we'll wrap up from that point. Overall impressions of that last story there, Metal.
I think it did at least live up to its name more of like the magazine it's in, thrilling, right? But I'm trying to consider it like what people knew at the time. A lot of people depicted the quote unquote Stone Age that way, so I guess it's acceptable. It's not like you're. I think somebody writing a story could easily find out more information just by going to a public library, but the people reading the story wouldn't necessarily know otherwise. So that's a little more acceptable by matching expectations.
Uh-huh.
Um, so I think it was all right. I think it was one of the stronger stories that we read today. Though I actually think the strongest, despite having
Well,
a really
wait
critical.
on that. Wait on that
Yeah.
because I am going to ask that.
Okay.
Okay. Um, I just wanted your overall impressions of this story. Once we get through that part, then I will ask about
Well,
all
that
four
was it.
stories.
That was my overall impressions.
Okay. All right. So with that being said, then um, of the four stories we read, which one would you say was, if you want to call it your favorite, your most favorite, or one you liked the most, or the one that you felt was the best of the four stories?
Well, I was just going to make it a more natural segue, but the one I thought was the strongest out of all of them that we've read today was actually probably the first one, despite having some critical complaints. But I'm looking at those complaints mostly from somebody who happens to know a lot about that stuff. And also, one of them, like, no, even somebody writing at that time should have known better. Despite that, I do think it was probably the strongest story.
And yet that first story, which was Thesson, son of the gods,
Hmm.
which had a lot of the Greek mythology. That was the one you actually. I actually, honestly, I thought you were going to probably say that. I thought that one, with as much complaining as you did about it, I thought that would have actually been, the one you would have said was the one you liked the least or the worst of the lot. Um, but that ended up actually being the one you liked the most, or the what you
Yeah, it
thought.
would be. It's either that one or this last one. I think those two were the stronger ones. It was like a sandwich, but almost like the opposite of what you think with the sandwich. And usually you think the bread is the lame part, and like all the filling is why you eat the sandwich. I thought it was like the opposite there.
So then, okay, so if we're going on, so primarily though, you first said that Thesson, son of God, was
Yeah.
was your favorite, the one that you liked the most. So with that, now, um, which of the four stories would you say you liked the least, or you thought was the weakest?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Probably the mask. I think the mask was probably the weakest story.
Hmm. Um, would you like to expound on your reasoning for that?
It it had a really hard time keeping my focus on it. Like I was paying attention to stuff. It was just really hard because it just wasn't a lot going on that
Hmm.
also just isn't in every single other story, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, I'm trying to remember if yeah, the mask was so I don't think the mask was the story that you actually stepped away from, right?
Um, Even if it was, because I don't remember at the moment, but I was only gone for like a quick moment and then I was back.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
I could hear you the whole time anyway.
Okay, so Thesson, the son of the gods, was the one you liked the most, and then the mask was the one you liked the least.
Yeah, I
All
think
right.
it just felt too generic based on like all the stuff that we've read on the show when I've been on before, or even some other ones that I've seen, or even just knowing about other comics from the area. It felt too much like everything, and not enough like just itself.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, I now remember it wasn't because it was the third story because we first did Thesson and then we did the Sphinx um then the Mass and then the Ghost was the last story. And then had I got through the stories a little quicker, we might have even read The Woman in Red, which was
Yeah.
only a 5 pager, but I just felt we're already past the 2 hour mark here. All right, well with that, I'm gonna try to wrap up real quick here. So the last part, of course, of the show is today is Friday, October the 11th. So now it's time to take a look back at this day in each history. History! So first off, we're going to head back 40 years ago today. As on this date, 40 years ago today, let's find it. Toei Animation's Fist of the North Star premiered on Japanese television back on this date back in 1984. So the first season of Toei Animation's Fist of the North Star premiered on Japanese television on this
I
date.
love Hokuto no Ken.
Yeah, on this date back in 1984. There we go with that one. Yeah, and I know that became partly even here in this, even though they didn't dub the entire series, they dubbed only a portion of it. But as noted there, it was shown on like Showtime Beyond and all that for a while there. But
The dub's all right, but it's got such iconic lines in the Japanese, like the "Omae wa mushinderu," that it's like it almost feels wrong to watch it dubbed.
mhm. Yeah. So, anyways, moving on to 1999. As on this date in 1999, WWE held its Monday Night Raw event, which was the go-home event before their No Mercy pay-per-view on Monday, October the 11th, from the Georgia Dome in Atlanta, Georgia. The main event saw the British Bulldog team with Val Venus to take on the Rock and Sock Connection. That ended in a no contest. Also saw China team with Triple H versus Jim Ross and Steve Austin. Also ended in a no contest. Big Show defeated Big Bossman by DQ. In a Hojack match, The Godfather with his hose defeated Mark Henry. Let's see. Anything else? In a Terry Runnels Invitational Tornado Tag Team Tournament, Christian and Edge defeated the New Brood of Jeff Hardy and Jeff and Matt Hardy 2-1. Well, actually, no, it ended in a double DQ, actually, in match number 4 of their series. Mae Young defeated Ivory by DQ at 1 second. And the show opened up with Mr. Ass, Billy Gunn, with Road Dogg in his corner, defeating Crash Holly with Hardcore Holly in his corner in 49 seconds. So that all happened 25 years ago today in 1999. Moving ahead now to 2004. On this day in 2004, in the realm of animation, as it were, a couple of things happened. Of course, on Nickelodeon, the Backyardians, or Backyardigans, first aired on Nickelodeon, as well as the SpongeBob SquarePants episode SpongeBob Meets the Strangler and Pranks a Lot, airs on Nickelodeon USA, intended to be the final episode before the first movie, but in September, the fourth season was renewed. And also on this date in 2004, PBS Kids Go is launched, in which both Maya and Miguel and Postcards from Buster both premiered on that block on that channel on this date in 2004. So 20 years ago today, the Backyardigans premiered on Nickelodeon along with um, what was initially going to be the final episode before the SpongeBob SquarePants movie on Nickelodeon, and then PBS Kids Go is also launched, in which premiering with two new shows as part of that channel: Maya and Miguel and Postcards from Buster.
Yeah, that's actually a really good episode of SpongeBob because the Strangler refers to a character known as the Tattletale Strangler, who I can't remember the actor's name, but he's voiced by the guy who plays Biff in Back to the Future.
Okay. Um, yeah, don't know. Again, didn't see Back to the Future, so the only two characters I know from Back to the Future are basically the two main ones: Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd. Yeah, Christopher Lloyd. Um, and finally, 1 year ago today, in 2023, get to the last piece of niche history here. On this date, 1 year ago today, in 2023, the 35th issue of Volume 6 of Amazing Spider-Man went on sale on newsstands on this date 1 year ago today. Sold for $4.99 with 32 pages. Written by Zeb Wells, with art by Patrick Gleason. Joe Caramagna did the lettering. Marco Meritz and Eric Arcenega did the coloring. So 1 year ago today, the 35th issue of Volume 6 of Amazing Spider-Man went on sale on newsstands on this date 1 year ago today. So with that, I do thank everybody for being here. Actually, before we go, of course, one last piece of business to take care of. Metal, would you care to do any kind of outro? Any last things you want to promote or share or anything like that?
I think I kind of just want to share the same thing I shared at the beginning of the show, and it's my referral links to Fables, which is that new webcomic platform that is built for creators, that has unrestricted advertisement, uses the exact same ad network that Top Webcomics does. It's made by the same people. I was invited to be one of the launch creators on it, and I've everything that I've made webcomic wise is already up there. You can see it now. They did a soft launch today. It does a hard launch, official launch on Monday, and it's a pretty good site. It's shaping up. It's got a little more work to do, but it's functional, and you can follow a bunch of cool creators on there.
I had actually gone back up, but then I saw a new message. So, all right. So, with that, if you can stick around for just a couple minutes after the show, after we sign off here, for post show, all that, try to make it as quick as possible. I know you probably want to get up. But with that, I thank everybody for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here on Sunday. Bye.